March Winter Tales book. Tonight I want to make our book covers, I want to make the hinges, and I'd like to make the base pages. And that will mean partially covering our book as well. So what I thought we'd do is, if we start off with the bit that takes the longest, and actually needs kind of the longest to cure, for want of a better word, I thought we'll start with our hinges. So for your hinges, what you need is some cat. Oh yeah. You're going to need some white card. I can't remember how big I said it was going to be. 11 by 8 3/4 inches. So you're going to need one of the 12 by 12s, aren't you? Yeah. Unless you put two A4s together. So I'm going to go and you can, Ruth, you would be very welcome. When I fussy cut, I don't know about you, but my fingers go numb, and I don't know if you can see, but I've got this white patch on the end of my fingernail, and I don't know whether that's anything to do with too much fussy cutting, because it's not a yes, thank you, Loki. It's not a blister. I don't know what the heck it is. Something weird and wonderful. Anyway, right, let's cut out our hinges. So I'm just watching this on the screen on my computer, and what I'm seeing lags behind where I actually am, and I've just seen myself showing you my finger, and it looks like, I apologise for the rudeness. Completely accidental. Yes, it's a disease. Fussy cutter's finger. I have it. Right. Okay. Let's get going with our hinges, because they're always the worst bit. So let's get them done. So, trimmers at the ready, please, ladies. I'm going to use 12 by 12 because it's easy. And I want to cut a piece that is 11 by 8 3/4 inches. So 11 by 8 3/4 inches. Okay. Yeah, that must be right. Okay, I'm going to get my scoreboard. And I am going to score on the 8 3/4 inch side. So that means that my 8 3/4 inch goes at the top there. Hi, Sarah. Yeah, I know, Wendy. I still haven't used the snips. I'm chicken. I will give it a go. I will give it a go. Hi, Trish. Oh, Susan. Do you know what? I'll tell you. Is it Linda McCartney does a vegetarian duck with pancakes and hoisin sauce? Oh, it is incredible. It's absolutely lovely. Anyway, I digress. For a change, Mark and I have actually already had our tea. We had a chippy tea, didn't we, dear?
Chippy tea.
Yes, we did. We had a chippy tea. So, yeah, that was nice. So I'm full now, which means I'm sleepy. So if I go to sleep, I apologise profusely. Anyway, moving swiftly on, I digress. We are... No, we're not fussy cutting. What are we doing?
Scoring.
On the 8... Thank you, dear. Do you want to take over?
I might as well.
Yeah, thank you. On the 8 3/4 inch side. So I want you to score at 2 inches. You might have to do this slowly because obviously it's quite a long one to score. So score at 2 inches, 2.5 inches, 3 inches, 3.25 inches, 3 3/4 inches, 4.25 inches, 4.5 inches, 5 inches, 5.5 inches, 5 3/4 inches, 6 1/4 inches, and 6 3/4 inches. Okay, let me just check that's right. 1 2 3 4. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so where we've got the 1/4 inches, those are our gussets, and then the 1/2 inches are going to be our actual hinges. So I don't know how well you can see that, but what we're going to do now is we're going to fold these to make our hidden hinges and glue them together. Now I always have some difficulty actually articulating how this goes together, so if you're not used to it, it's probably easier for me to show you than try and explain it to you. Oh, look at this. How do these things get so filthy? Have you seen the state of my big boner?
No,
look at it. It's absolutely filthy. I don't even know how this happens. Anyway, right. We've got these 1/2 inch measurements. Those are going to be our hinges, and the middle sort of measurement, that's going to be what we can call the mountain. That's going to be the top of the mountain. And then our gussets are obviously the valleys, okay? So I've got my first score line at 1/2 inch, at 2 inches, and then the next one's at 2 1/2 inches. So I'm just going to fold on that 2 1/2 inch line. Let's just make sure I get it straight. That would be a good start, wouldn't it? And then fold that back. So that is going to be my first hinge. So I've got my my wing, which is 2 inches here, and then I've got my first hinge, which is those 2 1/2 inch measurements that we made. Then here, what we've got next is our gusset. So we need that to stay flat, and we're going to make our next hinge out of those 1/2 inch measurements. But I need it to fold so that I get my gusset. Hang on, if I do it, I'm going to show it to you, it'll be easier. This is difficult because it's quite a long hinge. Something like that. Okay, so now, if you can see, I'll turn it that way around because that was the way I had it before. I've got my hinge, which is this bit here. And then I've got my 1/2 inch gusset, which is my valley. And then this is my mountain top. And then I've got my 1/2 inch hinge again. So that when we glue these together, it's going to look something like that.
Axel wants to know it has a wing.
Axel, it has a wing. That's the most importantest bit. The wing is where it attaches to our cover to make sure that the hinges stay in really, really well. It's kind of like a superhero's cape. Very, very important for stability. Hi, Linda. You're all right. You're doing all right. We're only doing the hinges. So yeah, the wings are very important to make sure that the hinges stay in the book, like the stabilizers on a bike. You got stabilizers on your bike? This is folding like a not foldy thing.
Yeah. Dirty bonus and foldy gusset.
It's just not folding right tonight. At all.
It's just with eating.
I think it must be.
But you are.
Yeah. Yeah, because I want to go for a sleep now. Right. Hang on. Nearly there. Right, okay, so now what I've done is I've folded. I've not folded it very well. So I've folded these all now. So I've got 4 hinges and 3 gussets. So when we stick it together, it'll look like that. You lost me as in the connection broke, Mary, or you lost me as in you haven't got a clue what I'm doing, because that makes 2 of us. The measurements, right, okay, I want you to score on your piece of cardstock, which is 11 by 8 3/4 inches. I want you to score on the 8 3/4 inch side, which is the shorter side. I want you to score at half an inch. No, I don't. I want you to score at 2 inches, 2.5 inches, 3 inches, 3 1/4 inches, 3 3/4 inches, 4 1/4 inches, 4 1/2 inches, 5 inches, 5 1/2 inches, 5 3/4 inches, and 6 1/4. If it helps, Mary, I did actually put a cutting guide in the in the group today, but I got a little bit too efficient and I did it this morning, so it's kind of moved down the group a bit. So I'll if somebody can somebody tag Mary, whether it's Wendy or you, darling.
Yeah, I'm just typing on the numbers here.
Thank you. Then that might help if you can print that out. It's got all the numbers on it. So I apologise for being a bit too efficient today. It won't happen again. Right, so now we've got our hinges folded. What we need to make sure is that we've got a really good crease. So I'm going to use my bone folder just to get those creases absolutely perfect. Okay, because our books will open, the pages will open and shut more easily and fall better the more we use them, because what we're trying to do is to break some of the fibres in the paper, to break them up so that they move easier, basically. So that's why when you're making hinges, I always think they start off really stiff, but that's okay, because over time they'll kind of know what they're meant to be doing. Right, so what I've done now is I've just given them sort of like a light burnishing, shall we say, so you can see now what those hinges will look like. You've got those 4 there, okay, with the gussets in between. So we've got 4 pages. I need to just count this because now I'm second guessing myself. Where did I put the book? Yeah, it has got 4 pages. That's a relief, isn't it? Right, so we've got the four hinges for the 4 pages, and then when we turn it over, we'll have a flat back, and then you can see the gussets a bit more clearly there. Okay, so what we need to do now is glue them together, and I do this, well, this is how I do it. So I'm just going to open that up a little bit, and I'm going to put a little bit of double-sided tape with cat hair. Cat hair's very important. It does hold it together on each of my actual hinges, avoiding the gussets, please, because what this piece of tape is going to do is it's going to hold the hinge together whilst the wet glue dries. Because where's my wet glue? Oh, found some strepsils. Oh, here it is. Right. Just take the end off it. My pokey tool. I'm just not reading what Mel's putting. Is she being rude again? No. It is hard work with longer ones. You're absolutely right. So now I'm going to put a little bit of wet glue inside that hinge. Oh, goodness sake. I hate glue. Never, ever, ever, ever works for me. Right. That's better. So I'm just going to put some wet glue on the inside of that hinge. It'll come out of my bottle. And I'm going to fold that hinge now and glue it down. Okay, so that's my first hinge done, and that's glued.
Good.
And we're just going to do exactly the same. Oh, now it's got too much coming out. Story of my life. I'm going to do my next hinge the same way. Fold that down, glue it together. Next hinge. Ugh. There's glue everywhere. Fold that down, and my last hinge. And I'm going to glue that. There we go. So those are my hinges folded and glued. How are we doing with that? Are we all right?
Yeah, I'm cool.
I know you're all right. Okay, so they're all glued together now. So you can see I've got my 4 hinges and I've got my gussets like that. Okay, so just a bit of a burnish, just for fun. Make sure that they're all stuck down really well. And now I'm going to get my cutting mat and I'm going to put my hinges just to one side. Mary, you can use double-sided tape instead of glue, but I always worry about longevity. When it comes to book structure, I always use I always use glue. Apart from when maybe I'm putting the front of the cover on, which I'll come to in a bit. But yeah, double-sided tape is fine, but I don't know how long it's going to last. I mean, I hear some horror stories about people coming back to books that they made a few years ago and finding that they're just falling to pieces because the double-sided tape just doesn't last. If you're going to use double-sided tape, I'd be inclined to use the red stuff or the polyester tape that I use that's in the shop. Oh dear. Because it is really good, but I can't even tell you myself how long that's going to last. So when it comes to structure, I do always tend to use glue because I'm funny like that. And I've got books from years and years and years. Well, my books from the very beginning, they're not falling to bits yet, but you never know. Right, okay, so what I want to do now is I want to cut the cover of our books from the chipboard or grey board or whatever it is that you call it. But the one thing that you'll notice about this book is that the covers are not the same size. So the back cover is 1 inch longer than the front cover. It's not very wide as a book, but it's just the cover is staggered, for want of a better word. Okay, so that's what we're going to do now. We're going to cut out our covers. So I want you to grab your grey board, your chipboard. If you've had a kit from me, you've probably got A4 size. I just grabbed this out of my stash, and I think it's A4 plus, which means it's slightly bigger, which doesn't matter at all. But it's just that if you're watching me cut and you think that I've got some bigger bits left over, that'll be the reason why. It's not because you've cut wrong, it's because I'm using A4 plus chipboard. That is why. So what I like to do before I actually cut anything, because being married to an engineer, measure twice, cut once, is horribly true. I'm going to measure it first. So we'll cut the back bit. So we want to cut one piece at 7.5 inches by 11 inches. So I'm just going to draw it before I cut it. Yeah, this is A4 plus card chipboard. So, right, and now I'm going to use my knife to cut through. So, just to save Mark from having kittens in the corner, here's my safety ruler. How boring is this? Christy, it's medium. It's about 1.5 millimeters thick. It's not the super thick stuff that we use for shaker pockets, and it's not the really thin one. It's kind of in the middle. So yeah, don't worry about that. It's not crucial. The sort of like the thickness of the grey board, but this is just, you know, a middle-sized one. Now, when I'm cutting grey board, and I'll give you, if you've heard this before, I apologise, but I've discovered it's a case of little and often. Rather than trying to struggle to get through it in one cut, I find that not pressing so hard keeps my wrists safer. So I like to go backwards and forwards a few times without pressing too hard, and besides which, it gives me more opportunity to cut my fingers off, which you know, is good because it winds Mark up. So I just run my ruler over a few times. Until it just comes away naturally. Right, so let's cut that piece out. Okay, so that's my back piece, and that's 11 by 7.5 inches. Now I'm going to cut my front and my spine. So once again, this is going to be 11 inches. I'm going to have to take my glasses off because I can't see what I'm doing. So this is going to be 11 inches. And the front cover is 6.5 inches, and the spine is 1.5 inches. So I'm going to cut those both out of this piece. So I'm going to make my mark at 6.5 and at 8 inches. What did I say? 8, yeah, 8 inches. Just checking that you all knew that. 8 inches.
Is that for the 1.25 inch one?
No, it's inch and a... Is it 1.25 inches? Yeah. Oh, for goodness sake. It is 1.25 inches, because I measured this so many times earlier because I didn't think it was right. It is, it's 1.25 inches, my bad. So we're going to measure that at 1.25 inches, which takes it to 7.5. Is it 7.5?
No, it'll have a quarter in it. 7.5 and 1.25 inches is 8 3/4.
No. 6.5 and 1.25 inches.
7 3/4.
Yeah, 7 3/4. What the heck am I doing here? I can't even draw a straight line. What?
Your straight line.
It's not right, is it? I'm turning this over. I'm going to start it again. Right. 11 inches. I'd find this easier if I was standing up.
Your crown isn't working.
My crown's, I think my crown's blocking all my mojo. It's doing something weird. Right, so 6.5 inches. And then plus 1.25, which makes 7 3/4, yeah? Yes? Oi!
Yes.
Yes!
Yes.
So 6.5.
Your antlers keep appearing on screen.
They're not helping. And 7 3/4, is that what we've decided?
7 3/4, yeah.
See if that's any straighter. antlers. Nothing wrong with my antlers. You leave my antlers out of this. Right. Okay. That looks straight. Let's go for that. No. Right, little and often. Ain't that the truth, ladies? Oh, that cut through quick. Right, and then here's my front, which is 6.5 inches.
Well, I showed you a new one.
Yeah, the one that you told me to buy. That's what keeps appearing. Because I'm not going to get to wear it at Christmas at this rate. Oh, for goodness sake. Now my safety ruler's moved. If I could use my ordinary ruler, that wouldn't happen.
You should have cut the thin one off.
Yeah, oh yeah. Maybe. Whatever. Right. Spine. Back. Front. Excellent. Right. Trimmer. Hold on, let me get rid of that. The front page and the spine. It's 11.5.
11.
Oh, for goodness sake. It's... Michelle, the front page is 11 by 6.5 inches. The back page is 11 by 7.5 inches. The spine is 11 by 1.25 inches. Is that right?
Near enough.
Okay, excellent. Right, Tyvek. We all know what Tyvek is, don't we?
It's that unterrible
It's
stuff.
unterrible.
We won't demonstrate it.
We're not demoing it tonight. So, I'm going to use my trimmer to cut my Tyvek. You can do this without Tyvek, but this is actually one of the books where it does really help to use it. And I'm going to cut my Tyvek at 11 inches. I think I decided by 4 inches, didn't I? Yeah,
yes.
4's near enough. This doesn't have to be specific at all. It can be whatever you fancy, so long as it's 4 plus. Right, okay. Yes, I can rip it. Does that mean I'm ripped?
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Right,
One
okay.
to fear.
Well, I am one to fear. Tyvek spine. I'm going to put some wet glue. Oh, no, I'm not. Oh, for goodness sake. Should we just come back on Friday?
What if a Muppet cut their spine 11 by 1/4?
1/4 of an inch spine?
That's pretty much spineless, isn't it?
It totally is spineless. What on earth did you do that for? No, your spine is 1.25 inches, Mel. You probably can get it. You can probably salvage it from something. I'm sure. Yeah, you're stuffed. Right, so just put. Oh, for crying out loud! What is wrong with this flipping bloody glue? Right. Will you sort me? You're an engineer. Will you sort me a foolproof thing about glue?
Yeah.
Because I'm fed
It's
up
already
of
on there.
this.
It's got the lid.
Oh, I don't bother with lids.
Well, there you go.
Well, right. So put some wet glue on your thingy. See, Christy. Of course, you know you go now, and it'll work perfectly. Right. So just lay your spine down into the middle of your Tyvek like that. Okay. Doesn't have to be perfectly in the middle. It doesn't matter one bit. Now.
To the left a bit.
Hey?
Nothing. It's alright. It's alright. It's fine. It's fine.
Now, to line up your front and back cover, what I like to do is line the bottom of my Tyvek and spine up along this bottom line here, which is all in centimetres, but it doesn't matter. Because we only need the line, we just need to be able to, you know, keep it straight. So now I'm just going to pop... Oh, same. I'm just going to pop some wet glue. What the heck is the matter with this? Why does it keep bunging up? Right. Oh, that's better. Got it. I'm just going to put some wet glue on the Tyvek like that. And now it doesn't matter which way round you do it, because it just doesn't. I'm going to line up my cover along those bottom lines AC because it keeps it straight. And I'm going to make sure that I leave a little gap there. It's about 1/8 of an inch, and I know after reading some of the things earlier about measuring and things that we struggle with our bookmaking, that that's a duff measurement. But Mark's working on a plan. Right, what's Tyvek, Mary? Right, Tyvek is a medium that looks like paper, sounds like paper, feels like paper, but it doesn't tear like paper. I'm not gonna test it, because last time I managed to tear it, so I'm just not gonna test it ever again, ever. But it's great stuff. But because it doesn't tear, it makes a great sort of a base for our spines, because we're always opening and closing our books. And if we put something on the spine like Tyvek, it just kind of makes it stronger. Okay, so shush, Louise, I can read what you're writing here. You know, we're not going there again. It just makes it stronger. And also I find as well, using Tyvek on the spine, some card will crack. You can't kind of get away from that. It just will. So if you've got a card that does crack, it kind of helps it not crack, I think. But that's what Tyvek is. You can't tear it, but you can cut it with scissors and you can cut it with a blade. Right. A good strong rope moment. What's a rope moment, Mel?
Perhaps you meant to put grope.
Oh, no, I don't think... Right, so I'm going to glue on this other side now. So... Oh, no.
What?
I've now got cat hairs all over my glue. Oh well, whatever. You know, in 1,000 years, when somebody finds some of my books and decides to take them apart to see how I made them, they're going to think that cat hair is very, very, very important to the building of the books, because I have cat hairs everywhere. Right, so now I'm going to put the back bit on, and I'm going to do it in exactly the same way. So I'm going to just line it up at the bottom so it's all nice and straight. And I'm going to leave that gap again here. So there's going to be about 1/8 of an inch gap. Let's just line that up. Yeah, okay.
The strong rope moment is when they're demoing a strong rope.
And it broke.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It's pretty much the same. Right, so that's how I put my cover together. So when I turn it over, this is going to be the outside of the book. And there you can see the Tyvek. Okay. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to put our base paper onto the book. And if you're using the kit or you're using the same papers, I actually didn't cover it in a plain paper. I actually covered it in part of the design paper. So there's 2 lots here. So we cut up one whole pad of our 12 by 12 papers last week. So what I want you to do now is grab the pad that we haven't cut up, which I put somewhere safe here. You might have opened it up and cut up the poinsettias. Which is fine. I want you to do that at some point. But basically, we've now got this whole pack that we can use in our book. So what I'm looking for now in this new pack are the backs. That one, which is what's going to be on the front of my book. And then I need the lighter one.
Beatrice says hi.
Hi, Beatrice. Which is going to be, there we go, that one, which is going to be the back cover. Okay. So, Mary, this is the perfect opportunity to get your double-sided tape out. Because what we're going to do, first of all, is we're going to put the back cover on, okay? Now, just to bear in mind that the back is also going to form part of the inside back cover as well, okay? So just, we're not cutting it down is what I'm saying. You've cut what too short, Karen? Hi, Gail. Oh, Gail, I have sent you an email, my darling, and I'm guessing that it has gone into your spam. So can you have a look for it and let me know if you haven't got it, because I'll send it to you again. I'd like to go to Michigan. It always sounds like such a lovely place. Right, so cover, as you can see, this is the front bit, this is shorter, this is the back bit, this is longer. So I want you to turn it over because we're going to work on the back. Hi, David. Oh, I'm glad I'm not disturbing you. I mean, disturbing your work, exactly. But then again, you know, that's fun, isn't it, really?
Ali says hi.
Right, Gail, I'll send it again, lovely. Right, okay, so just make sure that you're working on the back, the 7 and the 1.5. Well, you know what? Your back doesn't have to be longer. It's not, you know, you don't have to do it longer if you haven't got any more chipboard. Right, so I'm working on the back. So for me, now I don't know if this makes any difference to being left-handed, my front bit is on the right and my back bit is on the left for now. So this is where I'm going to use my double-sided tape, and I'm going to feel where I've put that Tyvek and where that gap is, because another tip to stop your card cracking, not that this does actually, Stamperia doesn't crack, but if you do have card that is at risk of cracking, don't put double-sided tape over the gap. So I'm just having a feel where it goes.
Right.
And now I'm just going to add strips of double-sided tape and cat hair all the way down the back of the book. Reinforcement strands of cat hair. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be straight. You know, it doesn't have to be exactly, you know, 1/4 of an inch away from each other, because you're never going to see this bit. But I do find that it helps to put it right at the edge. And I'm just going to lay those down like that. Okay, does not have to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination. You know, David, I've got to ask, what do you do? Mary, in my opinion, watching first and doing later, actually, if I'm following somebody else's tutorial, that's always what I do. Hi, Ruth. Because then that way, if I, as the person showing you what to do, makes a mistake...
Ruth was saying hi to Ali.
Oh, not to me. Oh, sorry, Ruth. I won't say hi to you then. Sorry. My bad.
Say hi to Ali then.
Oh, hi, Ali. Fine. Anyway, where was I? Yes, so if the teacher, makes a mistake, never happens often, then you're not gonna be stuck with their mistake, are you? I'm not speaking from my own personal experience of making mistakes at all.
Never.
Never. Right.
Mel says.
What? What, Mel?
I think she's thinking.
Is she saying Mel?
Mel.
Right, so this is what I'm going to use for my back piece. So, actually, it doesn't really matter which way up it goes. But if that's my back, that's going to be that way. So I'm going to just lie this down now. So it's nearly up to where my spine is, but not quite. So I'm sorry, I'm going to have to stand for this. Oh, hi, Ali. And I'm just going to place that down roughly equal top to bottom. And I don't know if you can see this, how well you can see this, but I've left a little bit of a gap so it's not quite on the edge of that piece of chipboard. All right?
Itty bitty gap.
Yeah, a little tiny gap. Okay? So, what we need to do now is fold these bits over. So, I'm just going to just gently fold this over into place. And I'm going to use my bone folder to make sure I get a really good crease there. Okay? Now, normally, when I'm doing a book, it's these end bits that I do. Ruth, you're my best mate now. Because, you know, Mel's been relegated. Because I think that was about me not being... was about me being wrong. Trouble is, Mel knows. Right, okay, so but I need to know where that's going to be. So on this case, because this is, you know, there's such a big bit here, we're actually going to fold these over first, but we're going to make it easy and we're going to snip. So I've made that little fold there, so I'm just going to snip up, but I'm going to snip it at the tiniest of angles.
Snippity snip snip.
And I'm going to just take my ruler and my knife, and I'm just going to cut that at a slight angle. So if you want to hold on a tick, it'll make better sense after I've done it. So there is just ever such a slight, that's probably too much, but anyway, there just needs to be just a slight sort of a what do you call it? A slopey thing there. Don't do it as big as I have. Let's see if I can do this one any better. So I'm just going to cut that at ever such a slight angle up to there, up to the corner, and then I'm going to take my blade. I'm making this so difficult for myself.
Yep.
There's got to be an easier way to do it than this. And I'm just going to cut that at a slight angle. So, like that. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So now what I need to do is fold these over. So, because it's tight, I'm going to make sure it's folded and burnished really well before I come to stick it down. Okay, so I'm going to use my bone folder to do that and get it right. I know I'm being a bit slower tonight, but I just want to get it right. Ruth, are you in lockdown? Oh, Wendy, you couldn't be anything else. Are you talking to me? Am I still your good friend? I don't know. Right, so those are all folded over nicely now and a good sharp crease. So I'm going to use a little bit of double-sided tape just to keep it in place while the glue dries. And because that's quite a long bit, I'm going to put a couple of pieces of tape on there. And then some wet glue. And fold that over. Oh, I'm going to end up with glue on my fingers. Oh. There we go. Just fold that over. Make sure that I've got a nice sharp crease there. Okay? And then I'm going to do the same at the other side.
Ruth says not quite.
Oh, that's good. I'm just wondering about the end of October at the moment. Oh, Nicole, good. I'm glad. Well, that's okay. I'm happy to go slower. It's not a problem at all. Okay, so a little bit of tape just to keep it in place while it dries. Cat hair and wet glue on the other bit.
Reinforcement strands.
Reinforcement strands, yes. And let's just stick that down. When we finish class, please, will you clean my boner?
With pleasure.
Thank you, dear.
Most vigorously.
Thank you, dear. Right, okay, so this bit now is going to fold over and we're going to glue that into place there. So let me just make sure that I've got a really good crease. And I'm going to pop some double-sided tape. Solihull, that's right posh, that is. That's not that far from us, is it? How far's Solihull?
Oh, not too far.
No.
50 miles, is it?
Right, so a little bit of wet glue up to the edges. Oh, for goodness sake. There we go. Fold that over. I'm going to use my bone folder now just to make sure that that's glued down, which it is.
Oh, 32 miles away. 33.
32. Oh, that's very,
To the side of room.
very near. What are you doing now, Nikki? Are you still shielding? That must be so tough. My dad's been shielding as well, and then he was allowed out for a bit, but he's decided to go back to being in. I don't think he's too keen on the idea of going out and about,
Probably
which is
is.
good in one way, but it's not really. It can't be that good for you in another. Does that make sense? It's a bit of a difficult one. Right, front. This is going to cover the back there and all of the front of our book. But what you need to do, and this is really important because I didn't, is this bit that goes down here. We need to make sure that that is stuck down really, really well. Otherwise it all bubbles up, which isn't good. So here's what I should have done and I didn't. I am going to put a strip of double-sided tape quite close to that edge, but not quite at that edge, but quite close, you see. Yeah. And
Close but not close.
actually, before we do that, we need to put some double-sided tape on the front. So we're going to put some double-sided tape across here. We're going to miss out where the gaps are. So just put that on first. All the way across. feel where my, there, so there. A little bit on the spine. Let's work out where that is. Maybe take a couple of pieces. And then I'm going to put one just there. Okay. So I've put one piece of tape just over on top of that design paper there, okay. What have you found toughest, Nikki, about having to stay home? How do you get round it? I mean, because I'm just going to take a wild guess that it's hard to stay. Even if you've got people around you, it can still be lonely. Oh yes, of course you are, Gwen. I'd forgotten about Manchester, which is awful, seeing as that's my hometown. Yes, and I know Warwickshire's all right because the hotel that we've got our Halloween retreat in at the moment is saying we can go ahead with some very particular rules in place, which I think are absolutely excellent and make it a very safe option for us. So yes, I like Warwickshire. Right, okay, so now we've got this bit of double-sided tape down there. That's going to help it all stick. But what I want to do now is just put some wet glue between the edge of the paper and that double-sided tape, just to bead all the way down, okay? I don't know if you can see how I've done that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lie this down on my mat, because once again it's a case of making sure that everything's straight, because that's always difficult. So I like to use my mat to keep things straight. So I've got it lined up there, and now I'm going to line this up. Hang on, I'm going to have to stand up again because I can't see. I'm going to line this up. So I've got about an inch or so of an overlap. My book is straight. I don't know if you can see this down here. My book is straight here. There we go. So I know that that's all lined up now. So when I turn my book over, and I'm going to look a right prat, this hasn't worked. When I turn my book over now, that back bit should be straight. Burnish it with your bone folder, because we need to get that edge glued down absolutely perfectly, otherwise we're going to get bobbles in it. Okay? And that's that bit of the cover done. Right, now we're going to finish that bit off. So, I'm a great believer in using paper, you know, keeping bits as much as possible. So I am just going to cut this down a little bit. So I'm going to just take my ruler and I'm just going to cut that bit off, because you never know when you might need it. And besides which, this dark snowflake paper is one of my favourites. So I'm just going to put that in my pile of I might need that bit. Okay? For something. So what I'm going to do now is pretty much exactly the same way that I've done this. I am going to fold these over and glue these down. So if I fold that first and then burnish it, I know that I'm going to have a really good sharp crease. Okay, so I'm going to just take my scissors, just snip up to that corner, and then ever such a slight what do you call it, slope, angle, that's the word, there, like that. It's not so crucial getting those matched up this time, because we're going to be covering this page anyway, so that's fine. So don't worry too much about your angle on this one. Okay. So I'm just going to fold that over.
Did you double-side tape on the spine?
I did. I put 2 pieces of double-sided tape on, imagine this is, you know, the other side. I managed 2 in there, but I don't put any double-sided tape over where the gaps are, because I found that that doesn't help. If you're going to if you have a paper that is going to crack, I find that doesn't help. No, Michelle, I think I've lived down south too long. I say down south, I live in the Midlands. Yeah, I got accused of being home counties once, which, you know, being a northerner was a little bit upsetting. But I don't think I really have an accent of anywhere anymore, apart from apparently posh. Sometimes it depends how much tea I've drunk. Right. Well, I didn't do that very well, did I? Because that's definitely not centered top to bottom, but it doesn't matter. Right.
Says it's late.
You are late, Miranda, but don't worry, it's absolutely fine, because you can always go back and watch. And to be honest with you, there's been an awful lot of me rabbiting on about nothing, so we're not getting on very fast. Shut up.
I was agreeing with you.
So I'm going to pop a little bit of double-sided tape on. Oh, glued it to myself. Oh. Eesh. Oh, I can't get it off my finger. It's like bogies. Right.
Do you leave a little bit of paper on the corner?
I normally do, but I haven't on this one. But yeah, normally when I'm mitering, I leave quite a big gap here. But this one I didn't, because we haven't got quite so much paper to play with. Oh, hi Pam. I might have some more stamps for you guys. I'll have a look. I probably have. If you want them. Do you want them? Oh, glue. Right, so let's get that stuck down. Is it just me, or has anybody else noticed that if you use your bone folder to make sure that your thing's stuck down, I think it sticks an awful lot better?
It does.
In my opinion, I think it does. Right. Little bit of double-sided tape. Got a bit more paper to play with on this side. Sticky. Oh.
Sue Hare says hello.
Hi Sue. I don't think it's just you, Sue. I think it's been playing a few people up tonight, connections and things. Christy left. Because she was having trouble with connections. Right. Do you know what? We're not getting on as fast as I hoped tonight, because I wanted to make the pages. We're definitely not stopping until we put the hinges in this book.
How do you do corners without cards showing?
Well, normally, it's all about the angle that you cut at. Normally, when I do a book, I'll show you. Normally, when I do a book, and I'm covering the corners. Right, let's pretend this is my book. When I'm covering, I miter my corner, but I leave that gap there. There's actually more pattern paper or cardstock left. I don't do it right up to that corner, so that when I'm folding it over, there's a bit extra, which I then depending on the thickness of the card, I'll either leave it or I might even chop it off, because I've started doing that lately because that works really well, because you can see where it folds. If it doesn't fold quite perfect, that's worked perfectly, that's flipping typical, that is. Then I will, if it's too bulky, I'll cut bits off. But with this one, I've cut it up quite close because we haven't got a lot of card to play with, unfortunately. But when we fold it over, it should cover, but don't worry if it doesn't, because we're going to cover it anyway, if that makes sense. You're not going to be able to see that bit. And I will let you into a secret. If I oh, I've tidied it up. Not my original fairy wings, but the one that I was doing in class, I cut it too tight, and I had a gap where you could see the chipboard through. And the answer to that is absolutely fantastic, and I thank Ruth, I think, for that. Metal corners. Pop some metal corners on and you can't tell, and it looks really smart, and I really like that idea, and it works an absolute treat. So yeah, I'm definitely all for that. But it's all about the angle that you cut at. If you don't cut a steep angle, you're much less likely, I think, to get that funny gap that you sometimes get. But I hate to say it, it does happen to all of us. Just a little snip out of place and that's it. But there's no such thing as a mistake. There's just an opportunity to embellish. So put some metal corners on, or you can make corners actually yourself out of card or pattern paper. Right, so you can see here there's a tiny bit of card showing. I'm not at all worried about that because I'm going to cover it. It doesn't matter. So that's my book cover as it stands. So this is the front and this is the back. But what I want to do now, before we go any further, is I actually want to add on my hinges. So that this, you're going to love this, this can wait a week before we fold it. Favourite bit, I know. I'm cruel like that. So, what we need to do is, here's my hinges. And I need to attach them to my book. Like that, and they're going to fit exactly top to bottom. I've made it easy this time. We've just got to make sure that we get it in the right place, okay? So, here's how I do it. I'm going to get a pencil, she says, and I'm going to get my ruler. And I know that my spine is 1 1/4 inches. That means that the middle is, Mark,
what?
What's the middle of 1 1/4?
Half and an
1/2 and 1/8. 5/8 of an inch. So if I measure 5/8 of an inch now, who was asking me that earlier? They said that was
Janet says good night.
Oh, good night, Janet. Night, Johnny, I'll see you soon. It's not 5/8 of an inch. That's not half at all.
1 1/4 inch?
Yeah. Oh, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So, measure 5/8 of an inch. And I'm going to draw a line over my pattern paper and all the way down, so I know exactly where the halfway point is on my spine. Okay, you're not going to see it, it doesn't matter. Thank you, Terry. You can always rub it out. So I'm going to just make sure that I can see that just over the edge bit there, because that's going to help me get my hinge right in the right place. Okay, right, now adding our hinges onto here. The middle point of my hinges is going to be halfway in my middle gusset. I'm not going to draw a pencil mark on that because I'm going to guess. So if I fold out my hinges like that, so 2 to the left and 2 to the right, that's how I'm going to pop it down onto my book. So turn your hinges upside down, pop some double-sided tape in to hold it in place whilst the glue dries. Pop a little bit, I always find this works, if you pop a little bit actually across the back of your hinges like that. Okay. Ugh. And then what we're going to do is cover this back bit, the back of our hinges, in wet glue.
Nicole asks, why did I go top to bottom? Seems odd.
Why does what go top to bottom?
I'm not sure.
Why does what go top to bottom, lovely? Oh, you mean all the way without the gap? Because I don't know why we have that gap at the bottom and at the top, you mean? There's usually, you know, an 1/8 of an inch, half, quarter of an inch, something like that. It just, I don't know. I just think that's, I know we do it that way, but why? To me, that's asking for trouble to some degree.
When you stand the book up.
Yeah, when you stand your book up, it's almost like it could almost lean. It just doesn't, I don't know. I mean, it works perfectly fine. I've absolutely done books like that. Quite a few, actually. But I don't know, just lately I've started doing it so that they just fit flush. So the pages are, and I just, it helps when you're putting the pages in as well, because it gives you something to line up at, I think. But I don't know, it's just something I started doing. Hi Rizwana, you're absolutely fine, lovely, don't you worry about being late. Right, so I'm going to put some wet glue on. Oh, that's because I didn't put the lid on. If I'd put the lid on when you told me to, that wouldn't have happened.
Yes, I engineered that solution for no reason whatsoever.
Oh no, shush. But I'm going to make sure that I've got plenty of wet glue going across, there was a bit too much there, going across my gussets. Because that is the bit that we've absolutely got to make sure. This is driving me nuts. I'll clean this out. It's my own fault for leaving it open.
Yeah.
Oh, why isn't it coming out? This is new-ish.
Do you want me to have it?
No, I need it.
Do you want me to have a go at it?
You can have a go at it when, yeah, please. Top. Thank you, dear. Right, so now I'm going to put this on my book, and I'm going to make sure that the middle of that middle gusset is where my pencil mark is. And I'm going to line my hinges up with the top and the bottom of the book, because I know that it fits. Oh, too much glue. And I'm going to make sure, this is so important, that your gussets are glued down. Oh, can't stand glue on my hands. That your gussets are absolutely stuck down really, really well to the spine. I can't tell you how important that is. I'm going to have to use this because I can't stand glue on my fingers. So I'm just making sure that my gussets are stuck down really, really well. So important. Okay, so you can see here now, this is all stuck down tight to the spine. And what I do, well, oh, thank you, dear. is I keep going backwards and forwards with my bone folder over, you know, the next 10 or 15 minutes, just to make sure that it's stuck down really, really well. Yeah, Terry, I agree. They're just, yeah, they're just whatever they are. Nicole, Miss Beginning, have you taped the hinges together on the inside of the book? Yeah, I use double-sided tape, just a little bit, just to keep it in place, whilst I use the wet glue to keep the whole thing together. Oh, thank you, dear. I didn't realise you were answering that. Oh, glue. Okay. Right, question. Do you want to leave it there tonight, or do you want to make our base pages? I'm happy to go with a majority decision. It's now covered in bits of manky glue that I've pulled off my fingers.
Yeah.
Okay, base pages please. Okay, right, so you can see here before we go on to the pages. Yeah, we all happy with that? We'll just have a swig, hang on. Okay, all right, let's carry on then. I'm happy to carry on. This is stuck down really tight to our spine. I can't tell you how important that is. So we're going to start our base pages now, but I want us to keep going back and just making sure that that is stuck, whether you use your fingers or whether you use your bone folder. So important to get into your gussets, girls, and give it a really good rub. Hurry up, Mel. I'm going to keep rubbing my gussets while you're making tea. Don't worry too much if you also get them covered in bits of glue, because we're going to cover them later anyway. Right, okay, so other than having another good rub, you can put that to one side until next week, and I do not want to see these folded. I want it to be kept straight, because I'm cruel and mean like that. Right, okay, base pages. We have 4 base pages, and they are made in exactly the same way. So the front of the base page we need to use our 12 by 12 for, and the back of the base page, as far as I can remember, we use our A4 for. So grab your trimmers, and you're going to need 4 sheets of your 12 by 12 and 4 sheets of your A4. Oh dear, mine are a bit manky, never mind. 4, okay. So let's cut the big ones first. I want you to cut 4 pieces at 12 by 6 3/4 inches. So you obviously don't need to cut 12. See you, Ruth? And we're going to cut this at 6 3/4. Is that what I said?
It is.
Right. Right, let me just double check, because I'm pretty certain that the pages are 6 1/4. Yes.
So we put 4 at 12 by
6 3/4. Keep all your off cuts, because you're going to need them. So 4 at 12 by 6 3/4. white's different colour white. Right. Okay, and then I want you to cut 4 pieces at 11 by 6 1/4, but it helps to cut it slightly under that, and it will become clear why in a minute.
On both dimensions?
Yeah, on both dimensions. So I will cut, say it's 11, I will cut it at just under 11. So
16?
10 and 15/16. I'm really sorry. All right, Trish, I'll see you soon. We won't be long with this. It'll be dead quick anyway. You won't miss much at all. Easily catch-upable with. So, yeah, so just under. So just under 11 and just under 6 1/4. And I'll show you why in a minute. If you want to cut it at the 11 by 6 1/4 and then trim it down afterwards, that's absolutely fine. But I'm just cutting out a step here. We may have to trim it down a bit more. We'll just have to wait and see. Because I don't believe that every scoreboard always gives you exactly the same score. So if you're scoring, say, at 11 inches, sometimes I think you end up with something that's slightly different to 11 inches. And that's just the nature of the beast. There's a whole heap of reasons, I think, why that happens. Okay, so, right. So we've got 8 pieces of card. The 4 smaller pieces that we cut just, I'm going to put those to one side. They don't need any scoring. So I'm just going to put those to one side and I'm going to grab my scoreboard. I've lost my scoring tool. Oh, hang on. There we go. I think I need a new one. I've used this so often, it's cut its own groove. So we're going to score. These are all 4 exactly the same. So I'm going to score first of all on the 6 3/4 inch side. So 6 3/4 inches at the top. And I'm going to score at 1/2 inch. Okay. Scoot it round 90 degrees. So I'm now scoring on the 12 inch side. And I'm going to score at 1/2 inch. And I am going to score at 11 1/2 inches. So what I've got is U-shaped scores that intersect on 2 corners, okay? And they're all exactly the same. So I'm going to score on the 6 1/4 inch side, 6 3/4 inch side, thank you dear, at 1/2 inch. Scoot it round and I'm going to score on the 12 inch side at 1/2 inch and at 11 1/2 inches. Okay. 6 3/4 inch side, I'm scoring at 1/2 inch. On the 12 inch side, I'm scoring at 1/2 inch and I'm scoring at 11 1/2 inches. Right, last one. 6 3/4 inch side, I'm scoring at 1/2 inch. 12 inch side, I'm scoring at 1/2 inch and I'm scoring at 11 1/2 inches. Okay, I can put my scoreboard away. While we're here, I'm just going to grab my cover and I'm just going to go over my gussets again. just make sure that they're sticking down the way that I want them to.
Terry Marcus says, go run. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Terry. Okay, just make sure that that's stuck down. Good. Put that to one side again. Right, okay, so here's how I put my pages together. I'll only do one, but they're all done in exactly the same way. So, where the score lines intersect, I'm going to mitre my corners. Now you can go straight across, but I don't like to do that. What I like to do is cut it at two slightly different angles, and the reason for that is if I don't, sometimes when I'm folding these flaps over to form the edges of my page, if you get an overlap here, it makes that corner really bulky. So I always do it at a slight angle. And if you get a gap that you can see through, it doesn't matter because you're going to cover it with pattern paper anyway. Okay? So I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to snip up to where those two score lines intersect. And I'm going to slightly change the angle of my scissors.
Kinky mitre.
Yes, what Mel calls a kinky mitre. And I'm going to do it so you see you've got a line like that. So it's not quite straight, it's at a bit of an angle. Okay, so cut up to where those score lines intersect, change your angle, and there you go. And you've got to do that on all four of them, okay? So what we're going to do now is fold over these flaps, okay? So I'm just going to fold each of those in like that. I'm going to get my bone folder and I'm going to make sure I've got a really nice crease down each of those. It's not helping. Okay, make sure my corners are good as well. Turn it over, and I like to go over it again just so that I've got that really, really, really sharp edge, which is what makes your books look really good, I think. Okay, so that's the page, but I want to make it easy to put on my hinges, and I want to make it a little bit stronger. So those bits that we didn't score, I'm going to grab now. And what I'm going to do before I glue anything is I'm going to check it for fitting. And I'm just going to make sure that when I pop that in there, it actually slides in without any gaping holes. And this is why we cut it ever so slightly smaller, because the size of these pages is roughly 11 inches by 6¼ inches. If I cut this piece at 11 inches by 6¼ inches, it wouldn't fit inside. Now, you could put that over the top like that. I choose not to. Personal choice. I choose not to because I like to have this clean fold. You don't see these bits. You know, you can't see them because they're in there at the moment. You can't see them. But it just, for me, it just gives that nicer folded edge to my pages. So that's why I do it that way. Okay? So now I know that that slips in beautifully. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up those flaps. I'm going to get my wet glue, which had better work now because Mark's meant, oh, it does. Oh, you show off. And I'm gonna.
I just put my finger in and wobbled it.
Well, that did the trick.
It did.
And I'm just going to put some wet glue on the inside of those flaps. Ooh. And I'm going to pop that down. Make sure that it aligns with that open edge here, the bit where we haven't got any folds. And then I'm just going to fold these on top and glue them down. Okay. I'm just going to use my bone folder just to make sure that those are stuck. So what I've got now is I've got my page. flaps on one side and an opening there. Okay? Right, the page. I'll do one more, Nicole, and I'll show you what I mean. So, I'm mitering the corners of my page. So, I'm just going to cut up to where that where the score lines intersect, and then I'm just cutting it at a bit of an angle. Okay? I'm going to fold my flaps over. And I'm going to just burnish those so that I've got a nice, sharp, clean edge to my page. Okay? Now, these bits are the bits that I didn't score. And what I want them to do, because these are going to form sort of like, these are what's going to make my page stable and easy to get into the hinges, is I'm just going to slip it in there and just make sure that when it goes in, it slips in nicely without a gaping hole, which actually this one doesn't. It doesn't quite fit. It's can you see it's got that sort of bulge in it. So I'm just going to trim that off ever so slightly, just a little slither. So now when I pop it in there, it will stay flat with no bulge. Okay, so you're asking about the book. For me, Nicole, when I'm choosing which way round I want my pages to go, I always have the flat bit without any flaps on the front. Just a personal choice thing. You can do it whichever way. It doesn't matter. It's not wrong. This is just why I do it the way that I do it. So this is the front of my page. This is the bit without the flaps. If I turn it over, you can see where my flaps are. There's a gap because of the way that we've mitered it. Can you see? But that doesn't matter at all, because when we've decorated our page in our book, say here for instance, and we've put our pattern paper on, you can't see any of that. It doesn't show because we've covered it in pattern paper. Okay? So don't worry if you've got any bits that, you know, don't sit exactly. I think it's better to have a gap than a bulge, in my opinion. Does that help? So I'm going to pop a little bit of glue on the inside of my flaps there. My pleasure. Pop that in, make sure that it's flush to that outside edge. That's where we're going to attach the page to our hinges. And I'm just going to put those flaps over now and glue it down. Oh, okay. And I'm going to use my bone folder, which I've lost. I have lost it. Where's it gone? It can't just disappear. Oh, there it is.
The thing right in front of you?
Yeah, the thing right in front of me. Just to make sure that that's stuck down really well. Yes, I know. All right. Okay, so you've got to do that for 4 pages. Are we good? So what you're going to have is your page that's flat and clean on the front with your flaps on the back. Cool. So, there we go. We've made our covers. We've made our hinges. We've put our hinges in the book. And we've rubbed our gussets hard to make sure that they stick really well to our spine. And we've made 2 of our 4 base pages. And I think that's where we're going to leave it for tonight. So, like I said, you're going to have another week to do the rest of your fussy cutting before we come to start decorating up the pages. I reckon we've probably got another 2-3 weeks of this at least. let's go 3. So yeah. Hi Tracy. Bye Tracy, we're done now. Sorry, lovely. So thanks ever so much for joining me. I'll hopefully see you guys tomorrow, maybe when we do part 2 of our little book. And I'll see you all really soon. Thanks ever so much for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Ooh.
Bye.